you have to learn the art of the follow-up. You have to learn how to communicate with people, how to follow up with them, how to stay headstrong with your ideas, and be an authentically powerful woman.
Welcome to Women Changing Leadership. I am your host, Stacy Mayer, and I teach you how to get promoted, get paid, and bring your whole self to the leadership table. I am on a mission to change organizations from the C-suite out because women are the new face of leadership, and we are doing it on our terms.
Hello, corporate badasses. Welcome to another episode of Women Changing Leadership. I am your host, Stacy Mayer, and super excited, as always, to be here with you again this week. So today's episode is based off of a combination of questions that I continuously get asked inside of my Women's Leadership Accelerator month-to-month membership. And you'd be surprised, but this comment or question comes up over and over again, even by the same women. So they'll make the same mistake more than once, multiple different times. And I'm always looking at, so the women inside of the Women's Leadership Accelerator are typically new to working with me. Like they're maybe been following my podcast for a little while, but they haven't actually gotten direct coaching from me. And so sometimes it can be a bit of a shock when I tell them that, you know, their course of action is a little bit misguided. Whereas inside my leadership table mastermind, these are women that have been coaching with me one-on-one for years, right? So I notice that the questions that are being asked are different in both of these groups, which makes sense. And so this question that comes up a lot inside my Women's Leadership Accelerator is, one, they're sort of asking how to follow up with people. Like, let's say you get ghosted or you direct message somebody, but really they're not actually asking how to follow up with somebody. They're more so making a statement, like saying, I'm not going to follow up with that person. And there is this deadly sentence, and literally, like if you hear yourself saying this sentence, I want you to, right behind hearing yourself say this sentence, I want you to hear sirens go off like, warning, warning, warning. Don't listen to yourself. Don't do that. Stacy says, warning, warning, warning. Because if you ever say to yourself, you send a message to somebody, a recruiter, a hiring manager, someone in your network, and you say to yourself, the ball is in their court, that's when I want this warning, this trigger to go off for you. If you send them a single message and then you say to yourself, well, that's it. You know, if they want to reach back out to me, they will, but the ball's in their court. You know that there is, in fact, some advice that I would give you, which is not to let the ball be in their court. Essentially, what you're doing when you're letting the ball be in their court is you're basically giving up. Now, it doesn't feel that way because you think you're taking the high road. You're not letting it bother you. You don't want to get worked up about this one connection. All of those are good things. But when you say the ball is in their court, you're also making an incredibly big assumption. So I actually thought it was worth making an entire podcast episode on how this one phrase can single-handedly ruin your chances of getting a promotion or getting hired in a higher level leadership position. Literally, having the attitude and the saying that the ball is in their court, could ruin all of your chances to getting promoted or hired. And it matters. It matters that you know this, and it matters that you do something differently. Now, I first want to acknowledge that a lot of times we will write to somebody and they'll actually write us back. Great. But that doesn't actually make it any more valuable that they wrote us back right away. Then let's say the message that you send to a recruiter and they don't write you back. And you don't have the attitude, the ball's in their court. You coach with me and you say, hey, I'm going to follow up with them. How should I follow up with them? And you follow up with that recruiter in a different way. And then maybe you even have to follow up with that recruiter a third time. And by the time you follow up with them a third time, now they write you back. Okay. So let's say it took 3 times to get a recruiter to write you back versus the one time that recruiter wrote you back immediately. I think most people would think that it was more valuable to have that recruiter write them back immediately. It means the recruiter's actually on board with what they have to say. The recruiter liked their resume. The recruiter's enthusiastic about them. And then the person that took 3 tries to get them to write you back, maybe that's less valuable. The truth is, neither one of them is any more valuable as a connection than the other one. When somebody writes you back immediately, all it means is that they were on their email at the time that you wrote them, or they were inside their LinkedIn DMs at the time that you wrote them, and they had the capacity to write you back. That's it. At the time that you emailed them or messaged them, they had the capacity to write you back. That's all it means. It doesn't mean that your LinkedIn profile was perfect and they really, really love you and they can't wait to get on the phone with you. All it means is that they were checking their email at that time and here's the best part, they had the capacity to write you back. So many people will get worked up because they see the little check mark on LinkedIn, the little direct message check mark, and it says they viewed it. And they'll say, well, they viewed it, so ball's in their court. No, imagine if you were a busy senior executive leader and somebody shot you a message and you saw it, but you were just kind of randomly on your phone. You were getting ready to head into another meeting. You got busy. You wanted to write them back, but you didn't have the capacity to write them back just yet. So now, if you have enough confidence and clarity in your follow-up message to them, well, then it reminds them, hey, this person really does want to get on the phone with me, or this person really does want to have a conversation with me. So now your outreach to them is much more valuable. There's a reason for them to write you back. It's just a simple reminder. We are all very, very busy people, even the people with the best intentions. Actually, I would venture to say that the people with the best intentions take longer to write you back because they want it to be a thoughtful reply. They want to actually have time in their calendar. They want to make sure they're truly connecting with you. But if you just say the ball's in their court and you never write them back again, you're essentially saying that their time isn't really that valuable to you. It doesn't actually matter if they write you back or not. You're showing up actually less confidently by never reaching out to them again. Let's say a whole week goes by, they forgot to write you back. They noticed that they didn't write you back, but then you didn't write them again and they're very busy. And then they're just like, you know what? I guess she doesn't really care, so I don't write her back. So this is the problem with the balls in their court, right? Is that most people are not sitting around thinking, God, who is this person that wrote me? I will never, ever, ever write them back. Like, that's just not a thing. Typically, they just see it in passing. Sometimes they don't see it at all. It legitimately skips their inbox or it just like gets messed up in the clutter. Sometimes other people check their inbox. But when you write strategically a couple of times, they know that you're serious. They know that you bring value. They know. And then by all means, my friends, if you write somebody 3 times and you do it strategically, you don't just repeat, hey, did you see my message? Hey, following up here, wanting to see if we can get on the phone, like making sure that you have a strategic approach to your follow-ups. If you do that and they still aren't writing you back, then yeah, maybe move on. But only move on for, 2 or 3 months. When you see another job pop up, reach out to them again. Nobody cares. If you really want to be hired, if you really want to get promoted to higher level leadership positions, you have to learn the art of the follow-up. You have to learn how to communicate with people, how to follow up with them, how to stay headstrong with your ideas and be an authentically powerful woman. You have to know how to do this. And so this is a really easy way to practice it. And a lot of these people that I'm talking about are strangers, right? You literally have nothing to lose if you write them back again. The only way that you can sound annoying and maybe have something to lose is if you start to sound really needy and graspy in your messages. Like I said, if you're just like, hey, did you get my message? We don't want to come off that way. I totally get it. But that's an easy thing to avoid. Just ask yourself, if I got 2 or 3 of these messages, would I be like, sure, I'll get back to her? Or would I be like, oh my God, leave me alone? And so we obviously don't want to get the leave me alone. And I think that's what most women are afraid of, is becoming annoying or pushy or something like that. So then we just say, well, the ball's in their court. If they wanted to get back to me, they would have. You're missing out on a huge, huge, huge opportunity, both in your own learning and persistence and integrity and making sure you walk the talk and you follow up. And if you wrote this really beautiful note to them in the beginning about being so aligned with their mission, and then you never follow up again, if it were me, I'd say, I don't believe you, right? I would say, that's a very nicely well-crafted ChatGPT message that you just sent me. But when you follow up and you follow up strategically, then people can get on board with you and they believe that you actually care about their mission. So I want you to kind of continuously check in with yourself and see if you're saying, okay, one and done, sent the message, ball's in their court. Now I want to tell you one of my favorite examples. This is a woman who is now actually one of my executive mentors inside the Women's Leadership Accelerator. So she runs a monthly coaching call, and she has been promoted twice since we started working together. We actually met about 6 years ago. She's been working with me and got promoted from vice president to senior vice president, and then eventually from senior vice president to chief sales officer. All of that, by the way, happened in 3 years. Now she's an executive mentor, giving back and sharing her wisdom with so many other women and helping them take the same journey. So here is her beautiful story about finally getting in front of the CEO. So at her organization, she was a vice president at the time. The CEO knew her name. It was a small enough company. He knew who she was. She was a vice president in sales. Her position was very important to the organization. She wasn't in LT meetings or anything, but he knew who she was. And so what she would do is she would consistently ask for a 15-minute ally meeting. So this is a process that I created back in 2020 so that women could continue to get that FaceTime with their bosses and their boss's boss's boss. And it's really turned into a phenomenon in the sense that it's like, if you do nothing else to get promoted but 15-minute ally meetings, it will work like hands down every single time, right? So this process, if you don't know about it, aren't doing it, I suggest you check out my previous podcast episodes about it. Start doing 15-minute ally meetings today. So she was reaching out to her CEO asking for a 15-minute ally meeting. That's not how you say it. You just say 15 minutes to catch up. She would do it like he would send out this all hands email to the organization. And then she would say, hey, I'm wondering if I can give 15 minutes on your calendar. He would just not write her back. And then we would come up with a different way to ask and a different way to ask and a different email to reply to. Like sometimes she would just say, hey, I read this article and I thought about you. Or she would say, oh, I want to talk to you about something really specific. None of these emails worked. Nothing worked, right? So he never wrote her back. He never scheduled the 15-minute meeting, but she kept persisting, right? And again, she's doing it in a different way. She's being smart about it every single time, but she never gave up. She never said, if he wanted to meet with me, he would. She never, ever, ever said that. I mean, she might have if she wasn't coaching with me, but I didn't let her say that, right? We kept going. One day, out of the blue, one of the messages, he wrote her back and he said, yes, absolutely. I want to meet up. All it meant was that he read her email at a time that he had capacity to write her back, right? It also meant that she was persistent. He saw her name pop up every now and then, and he saw that she was professional and she had something to say. So he responded, yes, scheduled the 15-minute ally meeting. It went amazing. They all do. This is why I say this is such a powerful technique. It went amazing. She has the 15-minute ally meeting with him. She asks, one of the rules of the 15-minute ally meeting is that you schedule the next one in the meeting. She asked to do this again next month. He said, absolutely, get it on my calendar. Let's do a recurring meeting. Literally, in their very first meeting. And I think part of that trust was probably built because of her strategic persistence. And so she had already built a great deal of trust with him just in how she was reaching out, even the emails that he was ignoring. She had built all of this trust. Fast forward to the 3-year mark when it comes time for her to get promoted to the C-suite. And she has built such a rapport with him and she has built such a relationship with him that he was single-handedly, of course he was, he's the CEO, anybody in the C-suite is his responsibility to promote. And he is the reason, and her relationship was the reason that she was promoted to the C-suite. Now, it wasn't the only reason, and it was all the other relationships and the trust and the work that she was doing and what she was creating for the organization. And she was doing everything else in alignment with that. But the thing that really tipped her over the edge was literally the CEO saying yes to her promotion to the C-suite. Of course, right? So do you see this idea of being persistent and not saying the ball's in their court and how important this can be for you actually having success? Now, let's do another scenario where you're reaching out to recruiters or hiring managers on LinkedIn and you don't want to be too annoying, but you definitely want to get their attention and you sent them a message. The first thing that comes up a lot is that the initial message that people are sending out is not a great message. So a lot of times what people are doing is they're saying something like, hey, I applied for this job, wondering if we could schedule 15 minutes to talk about it. The answer is no, right? So they're not going to schedule 15 minutes to meet with you, especially if you applied for a job. They're going to look for your resume maybe, and maybe that'll help put it at the top of the pile because you actually reached out to them. But there's really no logical reason that they should schedule 15 minutes with you, right? So your first initial outreach actually shouldn't solicit a response. Like, even if that's what you want to do, if that's how you want to reach out, it's totally fine. But know that it's not a big deal that they didn't write you back and say, yes, I'd love to get on the phone with you and the thousands of other people who just applied for this job and randomly DM'd me, right? So don't expect them to write you back right away. But even that being said, I still recommend reaching out to them, right? You want to connect with them. So first of all, if they connect with you on LinkedIn and don't say anything, that's great. That's a good sign because chances are they looked at your LinkedIn profile, which is awesome. If nothing else, they saw the header and they saw your title and where you're from and what type of work that so you should have all those things in your header on LinkedIn. If you don't, make sure that you DM me so that you can get my LinkedIn updates and profile changes that I offer inside of the Women's Leadership Accelerator. And you can get your profile updated so that when people are even just glancing at it, then it becomes a hiring opportunity. So now you have an opportunity to follow up with them. Like, so you don't want to just say something like, hey, touching base, want to make sure that you saw my resume. Come up with something different. So at that point, I recommend like expanding your web, like making sure that you're reaching out to other people at the organization. And by reaching out to them, let's say you connected with a vice president on LinkedIn, right? You could say, I also connected with the VP, with Jim, the VP of sales on LinkedIn as well. And I'm wondering if we can schedule 15 minutes to meet up because I really want to look at opportunities at your company. And you make it not about that specific job description, but more broad, like I just want to work at your company. And then they still don't write you back. Come up with another way to reach out to them. Now, I must preface this with there are these generic ways that I can tell you, but to be perfectly honest, you can find this stuff on ChatGPT and be like, how do I write a follow-up message to a recruiter? Come up with something. 9 times out of 10, though, I don't recommend the lengthy responses. What you're wanting is like a pithy 1 or 2 sentence response that actually captures their attention. And inside of our weekly interactive calls in the Women's Leadership Accelerator, what we're doing is we're workshopping those answers and those replies, and there's subtle, nuanced differences. The important part is that you're doing it, that you're not letting the ball be in their court, that you're following up. I have taught women to follow up even after they had a conversation with a recruiter that, maybe fell a little bit flat, but you want to reach back out to that recruiter again. Maybe you see another job posting and you want to connect with them again, or you just want to follow up with them. Maybe you have an update about your own career that you want to share with them. Maybe there's something that you heard about the company that you applied for. And recruiters love gossip, right? So just wanting to get on the phone with them again could be quite useful, right? Something else that you thought of that you didn't share with them, whatever that might be. But if you are reaching out to somebody, just know the chances of them being in this amazingly magical place where, one, they both consumed your message, and two, they had the capacity to write you back right away is like really hard to do. So stop second guessing it. Stop putting the ball back in their court. It is your responsibility to follow up with them and to make sure that your voice is heard. You want your voice to be heard. You want to have that seat at the leadership table. So start having your voice be heard in the process of getting hired. This is an invaluable skill that will do you so, so well when you do get promoted to the executive suite. And you have to get the attention of other C-suite executives who don't have the time of day for you. Other leaders at the organization that you have to get used to being in front of. You have to get used to raising your hand. It doesn't get easier, folks. So no matter what level you're at right now, if you are looking for that next opportunity, then I want you to continuously follow up and connect with those people who matter to you. Let them know that they matter to you. Why? Because you matter, because your voice matters, and because it deserves to be heard. Good luck, everybody. Go out. If you have somebody on your list that you've recently emailed or DM'd and haven't heard back from, go through your messages, write them again. Schedule a time 2 or 3 weeks from now to write them again. Don't be afraid. The ball is not in their court. It is your responsibility to follow up. And it is going to do wonders for your ability to not only get hired in those higher level positions, but to actually have a voice. All right, my friends, thank you all so much for listening, and I'll see you next week. Bye. Thank you so much for listening to Women Changing Leadership with Stacy Mayer. If you enjoyed this episode, you are absolutely going to love and benefit from the work that we're doing inside of the Women's Leadership Accelerator. This month-to-month membership program is unlike anything else in the market. We are single-handedly flipping the unemployment rates on their head. It is the only place on the internet where you can actually get yourself not only a job offer, but one that has a higher salary, a higher title, and more recognition and influence than you ever could have imagined in your career. Inside the Women's Leadership Accelerator, we are getting women promoted. We are getting them multiple higher level job offers. And I want that to happen for you. Join us in this one-of-a-kind program. You're going to get coaching directly from me, my executive mentors who are also hiring managers who are doing the work, who have worked with me personally for the past 3 to 5 years. We are here inside of this accelerator program to work with you personally to begin to elevate your leadership to that next level. This is exactly what you have been looking for, and I am here to deliver it to you. Best thing, it's month to month. So you can come in, join us, get access to all of my training materials, my weekly live interactive calls, and you can begin to bring your friends into this community. It is the most corporate badass community on the market. I can't wait to see you in there. Go to authenticallypowerfulwomen.com. We are changing the face of the leadership table, one promotion at a time. I can't wait to see you there.